Okay, well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to the Space Now Gallery here at the National Space Centre. It's brilliant to see such a huge number of people sat here. Obviously, hopefully some of you have got some probing questions for our two guests up on the stage. Now, I imagine most of you are aware of the fact that finally we are getting another series of Red Dwarf. Red Dwarf, yes, absolutely. It's, in my opinion, well beyond time. We do ask that you don't try to find out too many hidden bits of information about the new series. Obviously, you want to keep it a surprise for October. But before we do start, I will start off with a few questions. And can we just please give our two guests a massive round of applause, Chris Barrie and Danny John-Jules. Okay, now my first question is going to be to Danny. Now, obviously, you're a little bit of a style icon, coming dressed in a very dapper fashion today. And I heard recently an interesting story about your audition involving some interesting attire that you were wearing and maybe a few issues with tardiness. Could you give us a bit of a lowdown on what that was like?
Oh, the infamous story of my audition. I actually had the wrong time for the audition, so unbeknown to me, I walked into the audition half an hour late, and so you can imagine, you know, that all the dignitaries were sitting along the wall there, and from the head of BBC Manchester, Robin Duck, the producer, Paul Jackson, who doesn't take tardiness lightly, as Chris will vouch. So all these guys were there, and of course I was under the impression that I was on time, so I didn't apologise or anything like that. Just sort of said, "Oh, what do you want me to do?" sort of thing. And when I read the script, the character was, you know, wearing a fancy suit, inverted commas, so I wore my dad's old wedding suit, which was the old long jacket, big baggy sort of Cab Calloway trousers, and so I turned up, and immediately there was sort of people with tears streaming down their face. So then I was in there a very short time, and Paul Jackson was kind of sort of ushering me out the door, and I thought, bloody hell, I must have really done a bad job. This guy was trying to get rid of me. I've just got here. He said, well, actually, you're half hour late, mate. You know, so what? So, but I'd already gone. I didn't even have a chance to apologise. But I was the first person to audition for it, and as Doug and Rob told me sometime later, said that they had to sit there for 2 days auditioning all these people when they had already sort of made their mind up that they were going to use me. So yeah, no, that was my foray into Red Dwarf, and it's gone steadily downhill.
But it obviously did the trick in conveying the persona of the cat, and so fantastically we ended up with you. If I can ask Chris quickly, you had quite an interesting background beforehand. You were best known perhaps for your impressions in Spitting Image and other shows like that. What took you to Red Dwarf? What was your kind of route into it?
I don't really know how I sort of got into going along for an audition, but I think Rob and Doug had worked on Spitting Image as script editors, so they thought, who do they know, you know, in terms of performance and stuff, and they decided to give me an audition on that basis. So yeah, before that I'd been doing sort of Ronnie Reagan, Spitting Image, Kenneth Williams occasionally popped up, and extraordinary, David Gold and all that little nonsense. So yeah, I, unlike Danny, turned up on time. And of course I was a style icon myself. I've got the geography teacher look here today. Someone nicked the patches. But yeah, so there was no necessary real background for me in terms of comedy, in sitcom anyway. It was just that Rob and Doug knew kind of what I might be capable of, and they decided I'd be capable of playing a complete and utter twat. So there we go.
Which does, I think, lead me quite nicely to the final question that I'm going to ask before we open it up to the floor, which is, obviously, it's a sitcom in space, there's some very polarised characters, and I was wondering who out of the like their on-screen characters? And we can include Dwayne Dibley and Ace Rimmer in this as well. But who out of the cast is closest in personality to their actual on-screen characters? If you dare.
Do you want this, Dan? Well, we'll both have a little go at answering that. For me, I'm not sure really. I would like to think that I am Ace. I'm capable of doing everything and more simultaneously. No one would ever admit to being as squeezily as Rimsy. Although I have got into the habit of doing timetables and making lists, which of course is what Rimmer does. Crichton and Robert, ooh, tricky one. Automated, he is not. Leicester, Craig, there are elements. There are elements. Sloppiness of Craig? No. At that point, I'll hand the microphone over to Dad.
Yeah, I think out of the whole cast, the person who's probably most like their character is Norman Lovett. And no one can beat that similarity. Myself, I suppose I really, gave them the rope when I wore that suit, because the cat's pink suit ended up being copied from the suit I wore to the audition. So the pink suit is an exact copy of the suit that I wore to the audition, except the one I wore to the audition was black, and of course we sort of zhushed it up a bit for the show. But yeah, there is a little bit of me in there. Dwayne Dibley, I don't know. I'm not quite sure. Yes, there is a few bits. Yeah, there's a bit of. Yeah, if I'm really into something, I am nerdy about it, but I'm just not into the same things that Dwayne's into. Triple thick condoms and flasks. So yeah, there is definitely a piece of us, mainly because of the observations of Rob and Doug. If you go to the restaurant or the cafeteria, we'd be eating our dinner, and then see Rob and Doug sort of watching us from across the restaurant, seeing what we do. Yeah. So if you don't want your character to sort of sneak in a bit of your real person, just don't do anything in front of Rob and Doug.
Okay, fantastic. So now we're going to open up the questioning to the floor. Jamie is going to run around with the mic and pick people. So if you do have a question for Chris or Danny, please could you put your hand up?
Hi Chris, hi Danny. I know you've got a spoiler policy in place for the new show, so I'm not. But I'm going to ask a question about that. If you can't answer it, there's another question. This is the new series question. It's is there any series in particular of Red Dwarf you can compare it to? Because they've all got their own kind of feel to them. And if you can't answer that, it's what you would have liked to have seen in the Red Dwarf movie. So there you go.
Wow. Well, we kind of sort of came to a sort of consensus that it was around about 5 or 6 series, wasn't it? That it seems to have taken that kind of era on board. What would I have liked to have seen in the movie? Well, to be honest with you, I think all of us trust Rob and Doug to come up with the goods, basically, and 99.9 recurring. That's what happened. So I think if we were going to do a movie, it would certainly moved on from the last movie script that we had some 10 years ago, and I think that Doug would probably rewrite it and move it on to some extent, keeping up with what's going on in the world, So I think that if it was to happen, I think there'd be a new script.
Yeah, not much to add really. I mean, the new series will be, as Danny said, it's sort of round about a sort of late series from the block of 1 to 8, so yeah, 5 or 6 around there. Pretty self-contained really. Back to basics really, isn't it? And in the movie, well, it just been, that would have been self-contained as well, to introduce people who knew nothing about Red Dwarf, right the way through. And it would have been an opportunity to do a nice long kind of sort of storyline. I always think maybe Back to Earth was kind of movie-esque in a sense, you know. 90 minutes in total, with the first third setting it all up, and then the middle third building, and then the climactic third episode, you know, part. So, you know, I think, you know, the movie is, you never say never. You know, one day it might happen, and hopefully we'll get all those elements in.
I also think that the difficulty with the Red Dwarf movie was obviously they wanted people who've never seen it before to understand the story. Well, I think that part would really hinder Doug as in writing the movie. I think that personally, I would like him to just hit the story, you know, running from where the characters are already at a peak, and you know, take them upwards. Whereas I think when you have to go back and explain the story, it takes up like half an hour of the movie. So, you know, instead of doing plot for half an hour, we could hit the floor running, you know, but that again would be something that the executives would want to be arguing about. But personally, I think that it would be a better movie if we could hit the floor running from where the characters are already set. Just make everyone go and watch series 1 before they go and see the movie. That would be a lot easier to me, and some vast DVD sales.
And I know there are definitely a lot of people still holding out for a movie, and so if, you know, if you're out there in cyber world, keep writing about it, keep plugging it, keep trying to get people interested behind it, because I know there would be a massive market for it. Okay, next question.
Danny, did you enjoy doing the tongue-tied song?
Yeah, the tongue-tied was another observation, you see. This is what Rob and Doug are really good at, and at that time was, you know, scratch your head and say, you know, how do we get a song into this show? I know, there'll be a dream. Bam. That's the kind of kamikaze stuff that we enjoyed. It was just, should we do this? Yes, go. I loved. I came from musical theatre. When I auditioned for Red Dwarf, I was actually in a West End show, and I ended up doing Red Dwarf during the day and going to the theatre at night. So I was in full musical theatre mode. What you saw there was in the second series. You know, they just unleashed the dragon. Yeah, no, Tongue Tied was great fun. I mean, Chris and Craig might have a different opinion of their feelings towards putting on red suits and white Cuban heel boots, and
I think Tongue Tied played to our talents, you know, as dancers. You know, as you see, you know, we're naturals. Craig, myself, the old dancing. Although strangely, they took the shots of, you know, sort of from the chest up. Funny that. But yeah, played to the natural talents of the cast, and that was an opportunity for Dan to, you know, show us his musical theatre talents. I'm still waiting for mine.
And I believe Tongue Tied was actually released as well, didn't it chart?
That's right, it charted at number 17 in 1994. So, yeah, we're top 20. There's been worse. I'm telling you. Well, the thing is that Rob and Doug had a #1 record previously with the chicken song from Spitting Image. So, in fact, it was a bit of a disappointment for them. What do you mean, 17? We're #1 material, what are you doing? And Chris, you know, well, you know, Spitting Image #1, yeah.
Oh, the chicken in the air, stick a deck chair up your bum, or something like that. Sophisticated lyrics like that, that's what it was. Any more for any more?
So it's been 25 years. It's guys from the north, 25 years. Which is longer than most these folk have been alive. You enjoyed it, and you're now doing this. Would you have taken the job?
If we'd known 25 years ago that Red Dwarf would lead to this, doing a Q&A at the National Space Centre in Leicester on a Saturday afternoon, mid-March, 19 days away from my 52nd birthday. Yes, I probably would have done it. In Manchester in 1987, when we recorded the first series, I remember sitting backstage waiting for a cue thinking, either no one is going to like this, or it's going to be grabbed by a certain, cult, and then it's going to fly. To be honest with you, a lot of times I was thinking it's going to be the former, it ain't going to work. But it just grew and grew, and that I always go back to say it's testament to the brilliant writing of Grant and Naylor. The fans, you guys, have just been absolutely brilliant over decades. You're right, there's a lot of people here born after we first started, quarter of a century. But it's just fantastic, that it's had the long legs and the loyal fan base that it has. And, it's good for us, it's a privilege for us to come to events like today and meet the people who've put us up there.
And also, it's taken us literally around the world. Places Red Dwarf have been sold to, a lot of British television wouldn't even reach, in a million years. I mean, I'll give you an example. I'm going on a motorcycle ride to the Gambia on next Thursday, and we fly to Granada in Spain, and that was from, we're following sort of the Dakar route, the Dakar rally, and it started, in the old days it used to start from Granada. So in Granada there's a pub called the Red Dwarf, which we are going to visit before we set off, in Spanish, in Ano Rojo, which is the Spanish version of Red Dwarf. And where would that happen? What shows does that happen to? That you can go to Granada in Spain and there's a pub called the Red Dwarf named after the show. I didn't even know Red Dwarf was on in Spain. I was working in Prague doing Blade 2, and Red Dwarf was on every Sunday night. I've been all over the world and Red Dwarf's on the telly, so people say, would you still have taken the job? Of course I would. It's introduced us to a worldwide audience, which they usually say if you get one decent show in your career, you're lucky, and luckily all of us in Red Dwarf have had several. So, we've got a lot to thank Red Dwarf for, and, which spurned other shows and lengthened our careers. So, no, I would have taken that job in a minute.
Okay, we've got time for a couple more questions before we need to wrap this up. So,
hi. It seems quite unlikely, but is there any chance you could bring Rob so we can all sing happy birthday?
Is it Bobby's birthday? I have my phone. I have my phone, sir. We can do an impersonation of him, sir. This is my birthday. Sure, sir. Well, we can try. We can try if everyone's happy to wait for this momentous moment. He's probably got land flu. That's what he had last time. He's probably gone out for a drive his electric car and the battery's discharged somewhere in the middle of nowhere. So we might. He's on a treadmill trying to charge it up. What's his name again? RL. Aha, there we go. Right. Well, we'll give it a whirl and see what happens here. It's ringing. What will he be doing? What will he be doing on Saturday afternoon, Bobby? Mr. Bobby, how are you, sir? Well, let me just tell you that Danny and I are on stage at the National Space Centre for Brit Sci Fi, and we understand it's a big day in your life. Some people have a message for you. Just sit tight.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Robert.
Happy birthday to you, sir. Did you get that, Bobby? Your birthday chicken's heard it. Hang on, say that again. No, we were trying to be very low-tech here and join up the mic, but... so, anyway, there you go, Bob. What are you doing? You're filling the chickens then? Good boy. Okay. I'm glad you put that before coming to Leicester today. Do you have any further message for your fan base here? Jennifer's idea. Any message for Jennifer? Top man, Bobby. We shall speak soon. Take care, boy. Back to the chickens. Bye. Thank you very much. He says he is absolutely bowled over by that. Thank you. Good suggestion, Jennifer. And Red Dwarf 10 rocks, he says.
I didn't know it was his birthday.
Nor did I. He doesn't tell us these things, you know.
I really didn't know it was his birthday.
I think I'd have to send him a text or something. Just pretend that I knew.
All these decades and we didn't know it was his birthday.
Extraordinary, but you know, only if Red Dwarf could you do that, you know, they'd actually go along with it. Can you imagine Sean Connery, Sean, like...
There we go. What would it sing? We're singing this. It's Roger's birthday today, apparently. I'm not entirely sure it is, Sean. I think it doesn't. When's Craig's birthday? Do you know all our birthdays are? Oh, right. Oh! What, he announces his birthday on Twitter?
Wow. I'm going to slaughter him.
That's a bit sad, isn't it?
I am actually going to slaughter him on Twitter later.
Do we have time for one more, Sophie?
One more?
If you could be one of the other characters, which one would you be?
Well, funny you should say that, but there was an idea at one point that we would all turn into Crichton, and we actually did turn into Crichton. Well, just for a laugh, I put one of Robert's masks on, and makeup girl sprayed it. We went down to Doug Naylor in the green room and walked in as a black Crichton, and he nearly freaked out. And if you come and see me later, I will show you the photograph on my iPhone. But yes, no, and Craig had one on as well, so you can imagine his wasn't as dark as mine. It was just a light sort of orange tango tan sort of thing. But we did do that, and it was an idea that went around some time ago, and I think Doug had that look in his eyes. I can see an episode here, Reverse World. So yeah, I think I'd like to do Crichton. I've always fancied the passion of that, because obviously we're always impersonating him, so we've had a bit of practice.
Yeah, it's a process of elimination, really. I mean, I just I couldn't be a cat. You know, I'd be a sort of scruffy dog of some sort. You know, I just can't got the sort of movement or the you know, elan to be a cat. You know, that's new. Describe you as that. How about the elan of Mr. John-Jules? I just do not have there. You know.
Of course, you just think you Lotus.
Yeah.
At the time.
I am incredibly sloppy, so there could have been a Lister there somewhere on the line, but ultimately, I have done Lister in, what was it called? Thanks for the memory? I think it was Body Swap, yeah. So yeah, there's something there that could happen.
I've done a bit of the cat as well.
Not very well, though. Crichton, obviously would have to change, I can't just do an impersonation of Robert, but the mask would get me down on that front. So I don't know, but either Lister or Crichton, to answer your question, I'd have a go at, and then they could probably fight over me. Lucky them.
Hi, Chris. Hi, Johnny. How would you compare the set of Red Dwarf, What a Messing About, What About Takes, compared to a more serious film have you seen today? Some of the more serious Hollywood type blockbuster films that you've been involved in, Chris.
What, the sets?
Yes. Well, the cast crew you was messing about, what's about takes?
I mean, the thing of, compared to Blake, I mean, this is, the Hollywood kind of scenario is very serious, and I mean, any member of the audience that has been in to see a cast recording of Red Dwarf will, vouch for the laugh, not only with us, the crew, everybody is literally having a good time. I mean, we could be stressed to the nines, which on several occasions on this series we were under the hammer. There's a lot of pressure on us to be good. We hadn't been together for some time, and the laughs that we have within the company outshines the stress that would normally have, your typical acting lovey, jumping off Beachy Head, So the camaraderie really keeps us focused no matter what, and that's the difference that I've found with other shows.
Yeah, I mean, as Danny says, the Red Dwarf studio environment is a unique thing, and unique in a good way. Generally, as Dan's also said, it's a stressful situation, but we work hard and we play hard. There is a bit of banter. If you try and do something like that on the Tomb Raider set, for example, you wouldn't get away with this. People would look at you daggers, or at worst you'd be fired. So. And physically compared, in Tomb Raider they built a sort of a manor house inside a giant steel shed. It just reeked of budget, if I'm honest. And obviously the star of that particular film, you had to mind your P's and Q's, she was very much the star and a lot of control, Whereas Red Dwarf was very much sort of team kind of feel. Ensemble item, so completely different, and and obviously Red Dwarf much the better for it, because it's much more relaxed atmosphere. But Tomb Raider was, I'm sure Blade was as well. Once you know your parameters, was a great experience. It was good fun to work on, but in a very different way. I hope that explains that one.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for answering those questions, and well done for some really, really good questions, especially remembering Robert's birthday. Brilliant piece of work there. If you do have any other questions, both Chris and Danny are just around the corner at a signing stand. There are photos to be signed, so do come along, say hello over there. I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day at the National Space Centre and that you can manage to avoid the wrath of the pink Dalek. Do be careful of that one. And I think the last thing that we do definitely need to mention is new series, Series 10, October, on Dave, Be There or Be a Total Utter Snakehead. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Give it up for our guests, Chris Barrie and Danny John-Jules.
Also, thank you, Sophie, for asking that. Hosting this. Thank you.